How you doing? Glad you could stop by. I'm going to do a quick maintenance on the 2012 Ninja. It's really minor, actually. It's simply, I bought a set of these spools. I use my teeth to open them. These rear stand spools that are identical to that on the 2016 Ninja. The reason is because they're not identical. That's why I'm swapping them. And it's not for aesthetics. I assure you this doesn't go with the black. It doesn't look terrible, but the reason I'm swapping them is because it's a pain in the butt to continually have to change the setting on the rear stand between the two spools. It's identical bikes, identical geometry, but the spools are slightly different, so I got to move these about a ½ inch every time, and that's become a real pain. So I'm just going to swap them out on the 2012, and I'm not going to take the time to show you that. It's a bolt. It's easy. But what I do want to talk about today is the 2016 Ninja and the rear bags that we had mounted on there. I got some experience with those. I had some comments and thoughts about them earlier. I wanted to get back to you on that, as well as just an overview of my current thoughts on the 2016 Ninja itself versus the 2012 versus other bikes I've ridden, etc. So let me go ahead and take care of the 2012 Ninja and get the spools on it, and I'll be right back with you. Yeah, I wanted to give an update on the 2016 Ninja 1000. She's got about 2,600 miles on it now, and I thought give some thoughts on that versus the 2012. Also wanted to give you an update on the rear hard cases for the 2016. There's a video in the playlist, and I'll put a link down below on how to mount these up. These are the OEM factory bags. So I want to give you some feedback on those too. So let's get going. Let's first talk about how the bags mount to the bike. So there is a key. This key lock has been keyed to the ignition, so I only have one key. So that's nice. Challenge on that is most dealerships won't do it. You got to find a locksmith. My dealership did do it for me, which was awful nice of them. I appreciate that. Shout out to the guys there and Jim who did that for me. Unlocking the bag gives you access to this locking mechanism, which pulls up and down. It activates a little lever here, which locks the bag onto the rails that we put on. Notice I grabbed the other bag, so I can show you how it goes on this side. So there's a guide here on the bag itself. It's cut out. It's a little slot here, and that goes on top of this bumper here that we installed on the rear peg mount. And the bag simply slides in over that and into the two slots here in the rail, and you pull it forward on the bike, push down on the lock, turn the key, and that's it. It's pretty straightforward, pretty easy, pretty functional. That's the upside. I guess some other upsides is they're sturdy. They do not seem to affect the ride stability and wind, even when loaded. They have not come off. They do fit within the width of the mirrors, so if you're splitting lanes in those states that allow you to, if mirrors clear, so too will the bags. And they look decent. I'm not sure they're awesome, but they look decent. So they're pretty good, all in all, but they're not perfect. What do I not like about them? Well, one, you cannot fit a helmet in there. I don't know why they made them with this cutout here. I guess it's stylistic, but that prevents you from putting a full-size helmet in. That's a problem. Number two, they do not hold as much as what I'm accustomed to on the Kawasaki Concourse, those bags. Those not only get a helmet in there, but you get a hell of a lot in there. Those bags mount up a lot easier than these. For example, this handle is for the bag itself, but you have to use that locking mechanism I showed you earlier. In the concourse, the handle actually is a lever, and that locks it in. Literally, you drop it on, drop the lever, lock it, and it's on. Unlock it, pull the lever up, and lift straight up, and it comes right off. Fabulous bag. This is not as fabulous. And I mentioned that they don't hold quite as much, and that sort of goes to my next point on the Ninja 1000 itself. So, bags aside, the Ninja 1000 I think has a personality complex, or the Ninja 1000 is trying to figure out what it's trying to be. So it's not a full-blown sport bike by any stretch of imagination. It's very sporty in performance, but it's not a 10XR. The foot pegs are straight underneath. It's an upright standard position, very comfortable. More like a sport touring bike. And in fact, if you look at Kawasaki's lineup, they've got now the new Z1000, which is in two models, the bobber style and then the sort of naked sport bike. It too is a standard setup, but it's a fun, very fun little bike to ride. And so it sort of takes the place of the Ninja 1000 in that street leader type bike. So what is the 1000? Is it a sport tourer? Well, if you look at their sport touring concourse, no. It doesn't have the luggage space. It doesn't have the accessory outlets, heated grips, throttle by wire. Neither does the concourse, by the way, so therefore it doesn't have cruise control. It doesn't have a lot of things you would put on a sport tourer. Today you can go out and get yourself an FJR, and it has all of those luxuries in it, plus some. And the higher ends with heated seats and sport touring, real luxury. Kawasaki does not put that into their concourse these days. It's still throttle by wire, throttle by cable, so you cannot put a cruise control on it, a true cruise control. You can put a throttle lock on it, which is really a friction lock, but that just holds the throttle in a certain place. So if you're going up and down hills, you will vary your speed. Cruise control, you dial in a speed, hit the cruise control, and it will maintain that speed for you. That requires throttle by wire, not included. Kawasaki also doesn't include any of the other luxury items like electronic suspension control. So if you want to change your ride in the middle, you run into a rainstorm, you want to try and change your traction control, you actually have to stop the bike, just reset the traction control on this one. You have to manually get out and start tweaking your suspension, which is not likely to happen. But other bikes that have the electronic, you simply dial in a mode and automatically it responds. You dial in a different traction control mode on the fly. This you have to come to a stop before you get set it. So I think Kawasaki has kind of a personality complex with this bike. It's not a sport bike. Obviously it's not set up like one. They've got one, it's called the 10XR. It's a great sport bike. So they don't need another sport bike. It's not a sport tourer because it's not set up for all the things you'd want in a sport tourer. Now, having said that, you can go long distances on this without any problem, but you're missing all those creature comforts. The windscreen is reasonable in this, but it doesn't really block a lot of the wind and a lot of the wind noise specifically that you might want to get on a much longer trip. So I know all this only because I had the 2016 Concourse and I traded it in, as I mentioned in a prior video when I got this one, because I just couldn't fit the 16. My feet could not touch the ground confidently on a stop. While riding, it was fantastic, but while standing still, and in fact coming to a stop, I had to read the ground to see where the camber was and make sure I put down the foot on the high side. If I put the foot down on the low side, it was sketchy. And I said, this is ridiculous. It's a close to 800-pound bike. It's a bit top heavy. And so I was already leaning the bike over slightly when coming to a stop on one foot, which was okay, but if it was leaned over anymore, it would go over on me, or at least I felt it would. I didn't feel confident on it, and that was affecting my ride and my whole enjoyment of it. So I got rid of it, traded it in on this one, and I didn't do that quickly. I put 12,000 miles on the 16 before I did it, so I really gave it a good run. I am going to take this, at least I'm planning to take this one on a long ride this summer. And I need to do some things to it in order to get ready for that ride. For example, I mentioned it doesn't have an accessory outlet, which I want because I want to put a mount on the stem for my phone. And I want to be able to plug that phone in and use it for navigation, music, controlling my GoPro, things like that. Here I would, run out of juice halfway through the trip, I'm sure. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to have to get now a top case, or I should say probably a soft bag. It's probably what I'll wind up with, because I really can't carry enough in the two bags for an extended trip. I'm talking, at least 2 weeks out on the road. Where on the concourse, totally different situation. Not only did I have the larger side bags, but it also had the integrated hard case, top case. So, geez, I could pack a family of 4 in there. It was huge. So I'm going to do a couple things like that to the bike. Like I said, the accessory. I'd love to put heated grips on it. I'm going in the summer, so, that I'll probably wait on that. But if I do the accessory outlet, I'm thinking about putting in a relay, a switched relay, so I can wire that once and then put the accessory outlet on that, and then be able to wire other things into it, like heated grips. I want the accessories I put on to be switched so they don't burn out the battery by just leaving them on accidentally. And maybe you guys can help me. I'm looking for it in the wiring diagrams, and I'm not an expert at this by any stretch of the imagination, and I am under the impression that there is a cable harness up front from the factory that's already wired up for heated grips, because Kawasaki does sell an accessory heated grip for the bike. So I'm assuming that there's a harness to plug in. Now, if there's a harness to plug in, I'm assuming it's also a switched harness. So I'm thinking maybe I can tap into that switched line and drive a relay for other that I want to drive as well. But I'm having a hard time, frankly, figuring out the wiring diagram and where to do it. And I may just tap into a switched outlet or a switched line, like maybe the tail light or something like that. But do I really need a relay? That's the question. I know a lot of people haven't put those in. I have also a heated vest liner. Again, I am going in the summer, but where I'll be going will be very high altitude, and it will likely still have many, many feet of snow on the ground. So it's going to be chilly, even in the summer. So I want to run the heated vest. Now, I can plug it into the accessory line outlet, not the outlet, what do you call that, the pigtail for charging your battery. And there's a name for that kind of connector. The one that has one pin and one male, one female, and the other adapters reverse that. You get the picture. Excuse me. So I could plug the vest into that, but that's not switched, right? So maybe I'm thinking of all those types of things. So I don't know what to really do for this long trip on this thing. So any suggestions, I would be really appreciative of that. I know you guys have a lot of experience with long trips. I don't. I've gone on some trips. The longest has probably been, I don't know, 1,500 miles, maybe 2,000 miles over 4 days, 5 days of riding. The trip I'm talking about now is probably 3,000 to 4,000 miles. Now it's going to be over a couple of weeks, but I plan on staying at one location for a little bit. So anyway, I'd like to get your ideas on maybe a bag that I can put up here that I can strap in nicely. The relay or not relay for the accessories, outlets and other accessories I may want to put on later. And anything else you think I might want to be doing for a longer trip that might add to a bit of comfort. So leave comments below. Let me know what you think we should do here. And I'll be doing that pretty quick. I mentioned a number of things I didn't like about the Ninja 1000. Its personality complex, its bags, its lack of accessories, etc. like that. Let me talk about the things I do like about it. I mean, let's be clear. I own 2 of them, so there must be something good about it. Let's talk about the ride. Super comfortable. You can go for miles, hours. It's got great range. It's got a 5.1 gallon tank, roughly 40 miles to the gallon, so you got about a 200 mile range. The power is plenty. It's smooth as butter rolling on, and at any gear, at any RPM, there's plenty of power and plenty of torque. And if you want to have a little more fun in the twisties, the mountains, it's got plenty of go. It's not a slouch. It's got a great motor. Can't say enough about it. Kawasaki's done a super job in this 4-cylinder 1000cc engine. It's been that way since I think they came out. They've been making slight improvements here and there, but it's been great in the 2012. It's fantastic here. The clutch on this thing is like butter. I thought it was defective, actually. It's absolutely not. It's just so smooth. And now compared to the 2012, which feels like, you know, one of those spring grips to work out your hand, this is like such a pleasure. What else? I like the size of the bike. I'm not really tall. I'm only 5'6.5" on a good day. More importantly, I'm mostly torso, not a whole lot of leg, but I can still touch the ground on it. It's a 31.5, I believe, 31.5 inch seat height, but it's narrow at the tank, so the girth on it is such that I can still get to the ground confidently, and so that's something. You know, the styling is fantastic. I think that's a very personal thing. I like the looks of it. It looks pretty badass. The brakes are good. They're not the best by any stretch of the imagination, but they're plenty for the bike. Certainly an upgrade would be fun, but I don't think they're necessary. The ABS on this one works really well. I had the opportunity to ride in the rain and had to stop hard and crossing some painted lines when doing it, and ABS kicked in and it was very stable. Traction control is good, I think. I don't have as much experience with that, honestly. I had it in, there's 4 modes, off, 1, 2, and 3. 3 being the most aggressive, off obviously being off. I can tell you that in the off position, you have you have full access to all the power all the time. It will do wheelies for you at your command if that's your thing. In traction control 1, which is this default position that it just fires up when you start the bike, it'll start on traction control 1. I really can't tell much difference between that and off, frankly. Traction control 2, I was riding with that in the rain, and it felt a little more stable and sure-footed around corners in the rain. But honestly, I really need more experience with that, so I'm not certain. I've read some good things about it, but I just don't know. I'm in Southern California, so we don't get much rain. So yeah, it's a great bike. It's fairly simple to work on. The parts are reasonably priced. A lot of aftermarket accessories for the bike. It's been around a while, a lot of model years, so there's quite a bit of stuff for it. So yeah, there's a lot of great things about this bike. Again, my complaint is that it's something. It wants to be something, and I think it wants to be a sport tourer. I can't believe this is going to be a sport bike because you'd have to change the whole geometry of the bike. It wants to be a sport tourer, but it's not set up for that. Now I know there's a price point. I guess that's another thing. You know, it's reasonably priced. I suppose it's. I think they list now for $13,000. That's not cheap, but it's not, you know, $18,000 to $22,000 for a, you know, large sport touring bike either. So I know there's a price point trade-off that I'm sure Kawasaki's trying to do there, but it's not clear what they want for this bike and for its future. So I'm hoping they will think about a leader class sport tourer with all the bells and whistles on it. That way, you know, you can put all the money into all the nice accessories and maybe saving a little money on the big bore, you know, 1400 up cc sport touring frames that you typically see. I don't know. Maybe there's a market for that. Maybe there's not. But as it turns out, I'm going to be wound up putting all that touring stuff on the bike myself, so I wish it came with it. Please leave a comment. I've got some questions for you, so I need your help on some ideas. And I'll catch you on the next one. Keep wrenching.